Okay, let's talk about how, we'll kind of go over first how to organize this. Go from here, and you guys can make your dividers as we go. Okay, look at the calendar first. Okay, so this calendar is actually set up so that we can use this calendar for the whole semester. Okay, so these are your due dates. The dates that are on here, this is when things will be due. And you know, this class alone itself just puts a lot of responsibility on you guys. This is a certification course, you know, at the end of this, so so you can kind of follow along on your calendar, and that's why you'll know what is due, what's going on, and so forth. Now it says we did a lecture yesterday, which obviously we didn't do. I had to try and switch this around after I had already done that first week and made it on here. But anyway, so we'll do that today. We'll talk about the PTCB today, and then we can go on for the rest of the week. But let's look at the calendar. Y'all pull out the calendar, and I'm going to go over a couple things and what they mean on here. You might want to write down or at least just know. Okay, if you look on every weekend, it tells you what week everything is, and if you can keep up with that week, you'll kind of have an idea of what abbreviation list we're on and what med list we're on. Okay, so did you not get down?
No, what do you need?
So like week 1, that means we're going to be on set 1 of the abbreviation list. Okay, and basically we'll have an abbreviation quiz. It's pretty much every Wednesday, unless we have a test on a Wednesday, and then we'll bump it, you know, to that Thursday or whatever. So, but for the most part, abbreviation quizzes are going to be every Wednesday, and a lot of them are ones that we learned in principles. A lot of them are not, because there's a lot more abbreviations on this list than what we learned. And a lot of these pertain directly to pharmacy. So some things that we might not have learned before just because they are so specific. Okay. So, you know, my suggestion is even maybe just get a running list of index cards and make flashcards or put them in study blue or whatever you want to use, you know, make a running list, because it will be comprehensive. Every week you'll have old ones. This first week you'll just have the 10 or 12 that are on there, but from there on out you have usually 20 or 25 every week. Okay. And they're usually pretty straightforward. You do need to spell them correctly. The way I grade these is I take off, you know, it's, well, depending on how many there are, gives you your points, but I always take off 1 point for every spelling error. So just know that. Not the whole question. The whole question's not one, just 1 point. Okay. The medication quizzes, they won't actually start until next week. I went ahead and gave you the med list just so that you'll have it and go ahead and start studying it. And the med list, where I got these particular medications, these first 2 weeks are just scheduled drugs, which means they're drugs that have the potential to be abused. And so we'll look at those first, just because we're going to talk about federal law as kind of the first real unit that we have. And it talks about scheduled drugs. So I wanted us to go ahead and learn them because there's a lot of them on that test. So anyway, so that'll be the first one. It won't be till next week, even though I went ahead and gave you the info on them. And that'll be multiple choice. It'll always be multiple choice.
Awesome.
But it doesn't mean it's easy. Okay, so the main things that you want to look for when you're looking at those medications is what's something that's out of the ordinary about that medication. You know, most medications have a side effect of nausea and vomiting. Okay, that's just a potential for pretty much anything. Headaches, pretty generalized. If there's anything specific, or if there's any specific interactions that it has with other medications, those are things that you want to look for. The other main thing you want to know about medications is its indication. You know, what is it used for? Okay. So those are some things. Let's actually, while we're talking about that, let's go ahead and look at the medication list so that I don't forget to later. I'll kind of go over a couple things on that, just while I'm thinking about it. So again, these are all scheduled. I had to go back in and actually change some of these schedules. The medications that have hydrocodone in them used to be Schedule 3, And that just gives you their schedules, and you'll learn this next week. But a drug is scheduled according to its abuse potential. So the more potential it has to be abused, like kind of like you can think of it as like the stronger it is, then the lower the number it has. Like Schedule 1 drugs have no medical use for the most part. It's changed a little bit because there's a couple that are used for procedures or whatever, but anyways, but for the most part, Schedule 1 drugs are your drugs that don't have a medical use. Okay. Schedule 2 then are the most, have the most potential for abuse. And it tells you what they're used for. This format will change up just a little bit over the next couple weeks just because the way I added information will change up just a little bit, but anyways. So a couple things to look for as you learn these. One is a lot of times you'll notice that their generic name and their brand name are similar. Sometimes they are and sometimes they're not. But that's something to look at. That's another thing that you need to make sure that you know is the brand name and the generic name. I'm trying to think if there's anything. Just anything that's different that stands out from some of the other things or things specifically that you definitely want to know. Any opiate, as far as like it talks about opioid analgesic, all these medications. Opiates are a specific type of medicine that are used for pain. Okay, morphine is another example of an opiate. And so you've probably heard the word opium, like a street drug opium, comes from the same plant originally. Okay, so opioid means it works like, oid at the end of a word means looks like. So it looks like an opiate. It's kind of what you see there. So any of these pain medicines are going to have respiratory depression as a side effect. So respiratory depression just means that it's going to make their breathing shallow. It may make them slow down their breathing. So that's always something to monitor with any pain medicine, any narcotic at all.
Well, do they do that to like slow them? Like if they're...
That's not the purpose. That's just a side effect of it. So if before I could give any pain medicine, I always had to count their respirations and make sure they had adequate respirations before I gave the medication, because it can slow it down. Like I said, these actually, I probably should have redone this med list, except it goes with the quiz, so I didn't want to change it. But in a couple weeks, you'll see this will get a little bit more, I separated out a little bit more. And we'll talk about like that MAOI that you see listed on here. It's contraindicated means that you shouldn't take it with that other type of medicine. It's contraindicated. They work against each other. So let's see.
What does CNS stand for?
CNS is central nervous system. So that could be, well, obviously Adderall is a stimulant. So it kind of depends on if adults or children are taking it, because they can affect adults and children. A lot of times they have an opposite effect. So like Adderall for adults might be more like a stimulant, but for kids it might actually be given for ADHD. Anyway. So that one, see, it says contraindicated with MAOIs. That's a specific type of medicine. A lot of antidepressant medicines or that, Parkinson medicine, that kind of thing. Cardiovascular CVs, cardiovascular problems, and then agitation. So those are reasons you wouldn't want to give it. So if there's anything though that you have a question about, one, you can look it up or just ask me. So SE on there just means side effects, whenever you see that word. Again, this will get a little bit more clear in a couple weeks, so I just didn't really want to change it. And some of this, I know this looks like foreign, but it'll, as we learn over the course of the next few weeks, you learn more about medications, it will make more sense. Just know for now, I'll try to keep these a little bit simpler. So, okay, but look for words in there that tell you, like Oxycontin and oxycodone. Okay, those sound similar. OxyContin's the brand name, oxycodone's the generic name. And you've probably heard that word before too, oxy. That's because people will, illegally buy and sell this drug.
So what about the first one? It has like the oxycodone.
APAP is the abbreviation for acetaminophen, which is Tylenol. So that's a combination drug. It has oxycodone and Tylenol in it.
Oh,
Right, and I think APAP is on your abbreviation list for this week, actually. Hepatotoxicity would be what? Hepato. Not blood. Blood is hemato.
it's toxic to the blood.
Hepato. Think fat pat. It's your liver. So anything with Tylenol in it, if it's taken too much, it can be toxic to the liver. So that's the thing that you see commonly is people will have a pain medicine and then they'll go home and they'll take their pain medicine and then a couple hours later they'll take some Tylenol because they think, well, I can't take any more pain medicine, so now I'll take some Tylenol. Well, then they overdose on their Tylenol and they can hurt their liver in the long run.
And ibuprofen like there's a kidney.
Yes, but you can always alternate Tylenol and ibuprofen. They're not the same type of medication, and so you can even take them at the same time if you want to, because they're from two different classes of drugs. So anyway, so that's that. My suggestion is the same on here. Maybe make some flashcards, and use them every week because it's the same. It'll be comprehensive every week. And then at the end of each 6 weeks, I will take I'll take all of your medication quiz grades and average them together for a test grade at the end of the 6 weeks. Okay.
So this is the first one.
So this is the first week. It's for next week though.
Okay.
And we'll have this quiz next Friday. Just give me some extra
okay.
time. Should be on there for next Friday, right? Yeah. See, well, it doesn't say that, but RX quiz, that's always this. And then week will always just match up with the week on here. Okay.
Cool.
So everything, that's why I've got it labeled this way. So week 1, there is no meds. Week 2, you'll have abbreviation quiz set 2, and then you'll have this quiz. Okay. Look at the abbreviation list real quick. Okay, again, each set goes along with the week. So this first week, these first few are just numbers. I think we may have learned those last year, we may not have. Sometimes you'll see instead of it written like an I, like where it says this is 1, sometimes you'll see it written like this. You can actually see that. Okay, and that just means 1. When I was in nursing school, we did not write this, but people write like this all the time. So I don't know. So I don't really do that, and then of course 2 could be the same, or it could be 3. And it doesn't have to have the line in it necessarily. Doesn't have to have the line, but
Would it ever be like a capitalized I or like 1 like regular?
no. But now, I mean, people will use the regular numbers. That's why I just use regular numbers. And then the same thing with 5 would be a V, like a Roman numeral. You might have the line over it. X. The other thing you might add on to here, 10, X. Just the X by itself can be the number 10, or it can mean times, like it said 10x a day, 10 times per day. Okay, so it could mean that too. And I didn't write that on there. I think I've changed it since then. Okay, an A, or again, an A with a line over it. I think we learned that one last year is before AA. These are in alphabetical order, don't they? With the line over it means of each. And that is really more of a pharmacy abbreviation. AC means before meals. And C is always meals, like CC is with meals. PC would be after meals. Ad lib means just as desired. AGIT, I think that's short for agitate. It just means to shake, like shake it up before you give it. AMP, that's ampule, and I'll show you guys actually what an ampule looks like. That's just can put it with a picture. These are all just fake medicines to use for this class. This is what an ampule looks like. It's a glass, tube that's got medicine in it, and this actually snaps off, and it's kind of scored right here, and it snaps off, and then you have to use a special needle, a filtered needle, to get the medicine out in case there's any like glass shards in it or anything. Anyways, but that's an ampule. And there's certain medicines that have to be given from an ampule because they may have some kind of effect on plastic. So that might be a reason. Or like these are amber colored so that the sunlight doesn't affect them. Some medications are not stable in plastic. There's even IV medications they still have to give sometimes in glass bottles. Anyway. So that's an ampule. APAP says on here is acetaminophen. And I do want you to learn how to spell and write out acetaminophen. Okay. Tylenol is the brand name. Acetaminophen is the generic name. So they're the same thing. Tylenol is just a brand name. So you might practice that one. Most things that you hear are going to be spelled exactly like they sound. So you can use phonetics. I mean, they're spelled like they sound. Acetaminophen. Okay. And then USP, which didn't make it on here, but that stands for United States Pharmacopoeia. And we'll talk about that a little bit too. United States Pharmacopoeia. Pharmacopoeia is PHARMACOPEIA. Make sure I spell that right.
PHARM.
PH Pharma COPEIA. I don't have to look at that. Research my spelling of that one. EIA. It's hard to spell out loud, but I'll write it down. Okay. And there's usually around 12 or 13 abbreviations every week, somewhere 11 to 13, somewhere in there. And these just came from the curriculum online and some other pharmacy sources that I have. Okay. Okay, so let's keep looking at the calendar now over those things. Okay, the other thing that you're going to have every week, at least for the first 9 weeks, is a math worksheet. Okay, every week, and I already passed that out to you.
Is it the Roman rules?
No.
That's what are your basic
like,
math skills?
Yes.
Oh, it's this.
Yes. Okay, so every week you'll have a worksheet that looks similar to this, and it's just basic junior high math. Okay, I want you though to work them out by hand. Okay, once you work them out by hand, you're welcome to go ahead and check them with the calculator. Okay, but I do want you to work them by hand, just because, I mean, 9 times out of 10 you're going to have a calculator available, but sometimes the thing is, whenever we get into the really complex steps, there's still a lot of work that you have to do yourself before you put it into the calculator. And I want to make sure, I just want you to know, just a little refresher. And so basically these first 9 weeks, you'll get a worksheet every week. It's got math on it. And then after that, we'll actually start the calculations unit of the curriculum. And I want you guys to already remember how to do fractions and decimals and all that stuff. Because when we get there, you'll need to know.
So we don't have to like to read any of the top section. That's nothing.
No, I just want you to know. It should just be a refresher. Okay. Now, one thing is I do have, if you need a refresher, can't remember how to do something, those green textbooks back there are the math textbooks that these actually came out of there. And just made copies out of that book. And there are, I think, the answers in the back of that. There's like every third answer or something like that, like 3, 6, and 9, 12, and so forth. So you're welcome to check them.
You can at least get every third one right.
Do it. Well, you still have to get all of them right. I've already worked them out. And I worked them out by hand too. So, and once we get to the calculations chapter, the unit that we're going to do, then I'll actually assign you guys one of those books. Okay. Just because I feel like the online curriculum, it goes through the math, but I just don't. I think you need a little more explanation. I did. I mean, I needed more than what was on here. So, and I knew how to do a lot of it before I started. Some things are new. I mean, not new now, but were new even for me or more. There's more to it than just nursing, typical nursing math. So anyway, so that'll be every week. So if you'll look, like this week, we'll do the lecture from yesterday, and we'll talk about today's too. Actually, we should be able to get both of those done. Abbreviation quiz will be Thursday this week. You're just not getting this today anyway. And so tomorrow and Thursday, I'll let you guys, you might save your math worksheet for Thursday so you can take it down there and work on it while we're doing the blood drive.
Okay.
So you might save that for Thursday, and then any other like paperwork, you might save it for Thursday, and then tomorrow you guys might do the orientation part online. Okay. So while you're in here. Because I do want you to go ahead and take the orientation test Friday. But it's not it's pretty straightforward. Now, the test this Friday is not really a good picture of what the rest of the tests are going to be like for the rest of the semester, because it's just an orientation. It's pretty simple. You still need to study the information that you get, like about recertification and all of that, which you'll get this week, but it's not necessarily, don't just think, okay, that was easy, the next test is going to be easy, because that's not the case. So basically this week, okay, so bookwork 17.1 and 17.2, that's actually in the blue textbook. We'll actually use the blue textbook this week, and we'll use it again one other time. And then the worksheet 17.2, I'll give you in a little bit. It's pretty straightforward too. Okay, see where it says TPT under Tuesday? Okay, that is your pharmacy technician workbook, which I will give you guys each. You'll each get a copy of it in a minute. This one. Okay, so each of you will get one of these. This one's pretty nasty. So get one of these to go, and then there's a workbook, and the workbooks are actually yours to keep, so you can write in the workbooks and turn them in. Okay, so every chapter that we go through in this textbook, you have to do the workbook chapter that accompanies it. Everything except the what did I say? The true false. You don't have to do the true false. I know what you're thinking, but the true false is the hardest part in here.
Is it really?
Yes, it is.
I was like, you picked the easiest one not to do?
No, it's not, because you know how it is when you're trying to look in the book for things that are true false. Unless it's true, you can't find it, and then you spend your whole time searching for the false statement that's not even in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so and you guys can write in these. Okay, so they're yours to keep. So I'll give you guys those in a few minutes. But that's what that means. So like so Wednesday it says work on assignments, Thursday abbreviation quiz, and then work on your assignments. Friday it says do. Okay, so your first math worksheet probably won't take you all that long. It's very basic. Okay, the 17.2, which you'll work on, and then all of the book work. So what that's talking about is the 17.1, 17.2, and then the chapter in here. And honestly, oh, I don't want to start out behind, but we kind of did start out behind this week. If you need, for you guys, you know, if you need the weekend to get some of that book work done, I'm okay with that because it kind of got mixed up. Because you really should have started on all this Friday. Yeah. So, I just miscommunication, I guess. So, so we'll just, you can have the weekend to work on it. Okay? What I do want you to have done for sure, though, is by Friday, see where it says orientation test. All of the tests are online. You guys saw the other day when we logged in, you could see, you know, so before you get to that, you have to do all of the quizzes that go with that section and then take the test. I think there's 3 for this week, and they really will not take very long. Now the quizzes, I'll take a grade on every quiz, but they're pretty much going to be 100 or a 0. I don't actually.
Good morning, Bulldogs and Dogettes. It is Tuesday,
I do see the grades
January
for the test.
13th. Happy birthday to Dakota Daniels.